Welcome to the Outer Realm with Michelle Desrochers and Amelia Pisano. Airing live on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our Wednesday night segment here of the on the Outer Realm, never mind broadcasting live on the United Public Radio Network 105.3 FM from the beautiful city of New Orleans. We are fully sponsored by the amazing folks over at Folgers Coffee who have been with us since day one, and we are so grateful for them. So thank you, Folgers. Also, big thank you to Dr. Snick, the sonic surgeon, aka Justin Snicker, for his sponsorship and contribution of his voice and music for the intro and outro that you hear. He is an award-winning composer of Halloween, horror, sci-fi, and dark wave electronic music, which can be found anywhere that amazing music can be found. Bandcamp, Spotify, iTunes, Amazon. I can just keep going. So thank you for that. Hey, Michelle. Hey, Zach, man. You will notice I am minus the bubbles tonight. The bubble unit is not with us. She is day 15, if I'm not mistaken, of this dang virus. We'll leave it at that. And she's getting the pulp kicked out of her, but she's a champion. So hopefully if she's up for it, she'll be in chat. And we definitely hope she will be. It's not the same without her by any means. But we know she's with us in spirit. So let's just send her some good vibes and healing vibes and get her back up to snuff so we can get her back on the show. Tonight, we welcome back Cheryl Costa. This time it's going to be a little bit different. If you remember Cheryl, she was on before. She was talking about all her vast knowledge of UFOs and such, and just it was a phenomenal show. But there's another side to Cheryl, and she's going to be discussing that side. And with that, we'll be discussing her new book called Magickal Musings of a Rogue Witch. Thing is getting rave reviews. So hopefully, you guys will all tune in and love it. And yes, I hope Amelia feels better soon too. Absolutely. I spoke with her today and she's definitely getting there, but it's a slow process for her. But I'm hoping again she'll be in chat because we both had so much fun with Cheryl, and this is definitely, we've sort of perused over the book and it's just like really amazing. Like it's definitely going to be a lot of information coming forward with that. You notice we are again on our usual 8 streams. If you want to partake in any of the chats, I can see everything here on the soundboard. We are on YouTube, UFO Paranormal. We are on Moi, the Outer Realm. We are on UFO Gods and Extraterrestrials. On Facebook, Outer Realm with Amelia and myself. Canada's Most Haunted with myself. News on the flip side, UFO Paranormal, United Public Radio. And Joe Montaldo, UFO Undercover. Everybody's chiming in. God, I can't speak tonight. What is wrong with me? I think I'm having sympathy veins for bubbles. So anyway, hey, Adriana. Hey, Chris. So it's going to be a lot of fun if I can actually use my words and speak properly. I think we'll be all right. So let me just quickly get over to Cheryl's, I guess, bio for this topic. So Cheryl Lady Tashi was raised Roman Catholic, became a solitary witch in 1978 while in the Navy. Later, she was initiated into Alexsanderian Wicca, and over the years was cross-initiated into a handful of small eclectic traditions. She has taught basic witchcraft to several hundred students over 40 years. Gosh. From 1991 to 93, she produced 70 episodes of the first publicly televised cable series by witches about witches. The program drew domestic and international media attention. In midlife, she took a sabbatical and became a Buddhist monastic for 7 years. My gosh, this woman, she's amazing, and holds numerous ordinations. Mundanely, she's a retired IT systems engineer from the aerospace industry, because that's mundane. In retirement, she is an author, freelance journalist, and podcast host. As a retired Pastoral Priestess Lady Tashi will be a regular mentor to all the students of the mystical arts. Yeah, just mundane too. Hey, Trish. No, she's just like bloody awesome. So we're just gonna wait for her to pop on here. She's just amazing. I know we had so much fun with her and just perusing over this book. Amelia and I went over it today over the phone through the hacking sessions. So she did really good, but it's just so versed, and in layman's terms, I mean, anybody can look at this and go, wow, this is just amazing. So Cheryl really made a point of writing things in a way that people can understand it, get the gist of it without feeling like they're lost in translation, so to speak. So I think you guys are really, really going to enjoy this. Besides, she's just so darn much fun. We really had a good time with her the last time. So I am hoping she gets here soon. Oh, hello, Doreen. Everybody in chat is filling up. So hopefully, come on, Bubbles. You can do it. All you got to do is type. As long as she's not sleeping and medicated, hopefully she'll come on and join us. So we don't tackle a lot of subjects on witchcraft and magic, just because it's not really come up a whole lot. Amazingly, we get approached by people from all walks of life. We have had guests on, Utu, which Dr. Utu has been on a few times, and he's talked about that. And then we've had Kat Thagard, who's been on with him. Few people here and there, but we do have, I know next week we're going to be talking about magic again on Wednesday night, as Jim Giard will be back on. And he was also like super interesting. So all of a sudden, it's coming up, and it's not that, we don't welcome it. We do. We welcome things from all walks of life. And I have to say, I recently did a radio show with a friend of mine who I really adore, and he's just got he's got a hit radio show as well. It does very, very well. They actually tour with the podcast, and they are let's just say they're very unusual group of listeners, and I won't say unusual in a bad way, but their belief system is very staunch. And it was interesting because people kept seeing my red hair and asking if I was a witch. So it's like, what does my red hair have to do with being a witch? But I took it gracefully, and I just said, no, I'm not a witch. And they're like, and your skin is so pale. Not a vampire either. Mind you, some people may debate it, but no, not a witch, not a vampire. Do you believe in God? Yeah. Believe in a creator, believe in all kinds of things, I said, I just really welcome people to think with an open mind. The outer realm really is about shows and people coming together from all walks of life and sharing ideas. So if, just bear that stuff in mind. Open minds, not always judging a book by its cover, because they were quite surprised to find out that I actually help. And through the last 2 decades, I've helped thousands of people, with attachments and just with educating them on the whatnots and what to do, what not to do. When you fall into that situation, investigations, things like that. Hi, Kathy. And they were a little bit shocked. So yeah, the witch vampire with the red hair and the pale skin actually been known to kick some demon ass. So, for the lovely group of people who were tuned in that night, some of them were actually quite surprised and very receptive. Others are kind of like, we're still not too sure about you, but it was a lot of fun. So with that being said, keep an open mind, people, because I bring in all kinds of folks from all over the world who talk about some things that might leave you scratching your head thinking, come on. And I'm saying this because I've got a few coming up in the next few weeks. And it's going to be very important. keep an open mind. We don't know everything. We are a grain of salt on a very, very big beach. And I think if we looked at ourselves that way, we would start to see things as being universally challenging, for sure. Possible? Yeah, I think anything is possible. So there we go. See, Tamara's got it right. It stretches the gray matter. Yes, it does. And right now, my gray matter is having some issues. So, Zach, I remember seeing those kind of comments when a certain flat earther was on your show. Keep an open mind. Never mind. I have to tell you, that flat earth guy got more hits on YouTube, no matter where he was posted. And I can't even tell you how well the archives did. And that was another example, because the chat room that night had more people than we've ever had, and we get a fairly decent amount of people. And as soon as they realized that we weren't attacking him, oh my gosh! Like at first they're like, "Oh, a couple of witchy women and stuff like this." I'm like, "Oh, here we go again," right? Honestly, though, when he realized, or they realized, that we really were respectful and quite curious about all of this. I mean, we are learners as well. When these guests come on, we're learning like everybody else. I've heard of the flat earth theory, but I've never heard anything to substantiate why it could be a possibility. And he was having fun. We were having fun. The listeners were having fun. And I think there were a lot of people surprised that night. And big treat for all you flat earthers. Yep. Right here's the old trusty list. He is back on the show May 26th. There you go. You be there at bells on, and we're all going to have fun, because there's going to be some, new presentations and stuff. And I thought, yeah, this guy is hilarious. He's so much fun. And I love it because he believes in his cause. Whether it's a fact or it's not a fact, he believes in his cause, and that's what matters. Oh, here's my lovely friend Cheryl. Hello, lady. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Welcome. We are down a little bubbly companion who's down day 15 of her pandemic virus thingy, and she's just like, "Hey, Ken." So yeah, she's just like, "I'm going to try to be in chat if I'm not overly medicated or sleeping." So I'm like, okay.
Oh,
I know she's been down 15 days. It's not the same without her, for sure. So none such bubbly companion this evening. So how are you?
I'm kicking butt, taking names,
I love it. I love it. Everybody just line up. All right. So, boy, since the last time you were on, which was a phenomenal show, by the way, we had a whole lot of fun with you, and you're just so versed. And all of a sudden, I'm like, wow, this gal does everything. And I'm reading the new bio going, it's like, what don't you do? It's fantastic. So why don't you just kind of catch people up with a little bit about yourself, and then let's just blend right into how you got on the topic of magic, of course.
Okay. Well, okay. I've been wrestling with this afternoon.
Of course, yeah.
And after we're off the air here, I'll send you over a link for
Okay.
22 years ago this spring.
Right.
I came out as a witch.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I didn't do it. I didn't do it small. I teach my students, if you're going to do something, do it big. Think big.
Yes, right.
Okay.
Good for you.
So
Right.
I came out on the front page of the Metro section of the Washington Post.
That's pretty big. The hell? All right, girl.
Actually, go back about a couple of weeks earlier, 23rd of May, 1991.
Right.
I got a phone. A lady came to my door, knocked on the door, and said, "You don't know me, but I went to school with so-and-so, and he's the executive producer down at Channel 33. He says he needs to talk to you really bad." I've been developing a television program down there part-time. And I thought, well, maybe the place burnt down or something,
Be my
So I
luck,
better
right?
call. I didn't
Right,
back
right.
in those days. Not everybody had a phone.
Right.
And this was one of those deals where I had to take my little MCI card, walk down to 7-Eleven, get on the payphone and call in. And I called in and I says, well, what's going on? He says, a 300-word story went out on the Associated Press this afternoon about your program that hadn't aired yet. Okay.
Oh.
And I simply, being the rigid producer that I was at that time, I said, well, did we get any press ink?
Yeah, right.
And he says, no, Cheryl. Now the 300-word article was about the fact that we had in a couple of weeks, actually a couple of weeks at that point, it's like 2 weeks, we were going to debut the first of 6 episodes of a witchcraft television program produced by witches for witches. Okay.
Yes.
And it was on Channel 33 in Arlington, Virginia. So essentially,
Ooh, of all places.
Washington Beltway, and you got
Wow.
the Washington DC International Press Corps there. Okay. So this little story went out on the Associated Press. So my first question to the staff producer at the station was, so did we get any press ink? And he says, Cheryl, no, we didn't get any press ink.
Wow.
But CBS and ABC News are in the lobby. They want to talk to the witches.
Gangway.
This is like the old joke. You're going to have a very special day when 60 Minutes is in the lobby when you come to work.
Yes, yes.
And so that was the flavor of it. And the link I'm going to send you afterwards is a couple of weeks later. Quite literally, my name, my straight Cheryl Costa name is right there in the first line of the article for the Washington Post about the program.
Wow, then
it was crazy.
No kidding.
And over the next, we made a splash. Larry King had us on June 6th, 1991, the night we debuted.
Right.
And of course, being a trans lady, 250,000 people called the producers and said, "That's a man in a dress," And I was higher maintenance in those days, But
right,
it was so cool,
right?
What we were presenting, and like everybody was just like, and there's witches on the cable in Arlington. Oh my God, and within a week of that. Now, understand, we picked up 80, actually probably closer to 90 interviews of domestic and international media over the next 18 months.
Wow. That's really good. That's substantial.
We caused a riot in Rome.
How to be a fly on the wall.
Quick story, and then we'll get into the book.
Is this? Hey, you know how we drive on this show, right? Is your show. You go anywhere you want. I will follow along.
Okay.
How about that?
Here's what happened.
Okay.
I get this phone call from a correspondent at ABC News who I had met with a previous interview.
Right.
He says, calls me up and he says, and I'm not going to mention the guy's name. He's retired. I don't want to. And he says, "Do you guys know you caused a riot in Rome?" I says, "What?" He says,
"What?"
He says, "You did an interview with Italian people, right?" I said, "Yeah, we did an interview with them." He said, "You did an interview with Italian Look magazine, and it was still being published over there." And I said, "Yeah." He says, "And you did an interview with Italian Channel 4 in Rome, right?" And I said, "Yeah, they're Washington Bureau showed up. Yeah, why?" He says, "Well, the articles all hit the newsstands in Rome the same week. And Channel 4, there's after 6 o'clock news thing at 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock before prime time. They always have like this local news, not news, but kind of magazine hour kind of thing, the news magazine hour.
Yeah.
And they aired their piece on us. Okay. They sat there through 3 of us taping 3 episodes one afternoon. Okay. We used to set up and tape 4 episodes. We'd rent the studios for 6 hours.
Right.
And we'd come in there, set up, only had to set up once, only had to pay the babysitter once, only had to feed the crew once.
Right.
Took the host of the show We took 4 outfits for her. Every time we broke for a break at the end of a 30-minute taping, she changed clothes, came back, made it look like a different day.
Right.
Television magic, as they say.
Right.
And they sat there for the whole 6 hours with us. So they had enough material for a really good special.
Right.
After it aired, now in Rome, they don't have a lot of single family homes. It's a lot of high rises. And the classier the high rise, the more money you have, the lesser classy the high rise, the more poor you are.
Oh, interesting.
And all these people started coming, all these women started coming out into the alleyways from these tall high rises, marching through the alleyways, chanting. By the time they got to the gates of the Vatican,
oh my, no, don't tell me they went to the
upwards of
Vatican.
3,000 strong. The gates were closed, of course, chanting in Italian, "We are the witches, we have returned."
Oh no. I'm sorry, that had to have been a sight and a half. Can you imagine the poor Pope sitting out there going, like, what is this? Wow.
After the story after the Washington Post story and us appearing on Larry King, we were both being followed around by 4 different law enforcement agencies.
Oh no.
Because it was unheard of to have witches out of the closet talking about this stuff openly, and not just like decrepit people.
Yeah.
People always painted the story, they're on the fringes of society kind of people. Here I was a computer programmer for IBM, that kind of thing.
I know. That's what I was saying, Zach, man. Causing a riot in Rome, that had to be one heck of a day for the Pope.
Yeah. I blew our socks away. Me and the host were going, oh my God. And this was a $50 a week cable access program.
Oh my word. My word.
So
yeah, that's good.
That was how I came out. Okay. It was this idea
you don't
that
really do anything small, do you? No.
Well, if you're going to do it big, and
apparently
there's a couple of reasons for it. I had a high security clearance. Right. And I had to put myself in a position where I could not be blackmailed.
Okay.
So by coming out in such a big way,
right,
there was no way they could the people who control clearances couldn't look at me and say, "Well, we think you can be blackmailed." Okay.
Right.
And I'd already learned that line a couple of years before.
Amelia's in the house. Hello, Bubbles.
Hey, there she is.
She is.
I'd already learned that thing a couple of years before. In 1997, I was in the middle of my transition.
Right.
Okay. And I was very, very, let's just say this way, I still kind of dressed in that white shirt and tie, but I had 2 pierced earrings. My brows had gotten pretty thin and I had permed hair,
Right.
So the guy for the defense investigative agency, well, we think you can be blackmailed. We're going to turn your clearance off.
Oh no.
I said, what if I could fix that? He said, oh, we can't see how you could fix that. I said, because everybody in your shop, nobody knows, here at work, the type of thing. Yeah, your neighbors all think you're like in a Disney movie, you dance with squirrels in the yard type of thing. But, but he says, honest to God, that's a quote. He says, but we think you can be blackmailed. He says, can you give me 2 weeks or 3 weeks? He said, I'm going to be back in 3 weeks. I'll turn off your clearance at that time. I said, okay, fine. So he comes back 3 weeks later and I says, I think I fixed it. Threw a VHS tape on the test. I'm the blonde on Phil Donahue. I'm the redhead on Gary Collins. He looks at me. This guy's overweight. Jaw drops down his chest. He says, you came out on national television? I said, yeah, I can't be blackmailed anymore. And I made copies of those shows. The same what you got. I made VHS copies and I gave them to all the guys in the shop and they took them home and watched them with their wives. I can't be blackmailed.
Oh my God.
So this was the pattern. It worked so well there. Take it on the road, and we're going to come. See, I'd been practicing as a witch since about 1976 when I was in the Navy.
Right.
Okay, and I had to keep it really close to my chest.
Yeah.
Okay, and that was very touchy. But between the clearance side of it and all, God only knows you're out there on a ship. You've got chief petty officers or hellfire and brimstone Bible thumpers, and you could hear them not talk kindly about such things. Okay.
Oh, absolutely not.
And the reading material we had in those days was Gardner. This is 76, 77, 78. 79 time frame. It was Gardner, Alexander's kind of stuff. That was about all that was out there at the time. Wasn't until like 82, after I'd gotten out of the Navy, when things like Starhawk and Drawing Down the Moon came out with Margot Adler,
Right.
And so I had to keep it close to my chest. And then later I'm out of the Navy. I'm in defense industry, and I got this clearance still. It's hanging over my head. So I was always had this. What do they say? What do we call it in the trade? Oh, the shadow self, that spy self. You have to kind of keep that shield up, that,
Right.
of who you really are, and pretend to be somebody else,
Right.
and I couldn't live with it anymore. I had been in the closet as somebody who was going to be a trans person for years. And then there was this whole thing with the craft. And I figured, if I'm ever going to unleash my craft properly, I have got to let down this facade that was draining my energy, as they say.
Right.
And so I did mine on Larry King and on the front page of the Washington Post.
Just a little stint with Larry King. That's hilarious. Zachman thanks you for your service. So,
well, yeah, he looked at me. He says, "Do you guys put bad spells on people?" I just looked at him. I said, "Nah, it's too much work. They're not worth the trouble."
Let's just not go there. I can, but I won't. I might, maybe. So, Amelia says, "I'm with Zachman. Thank you very much for your service." There you go.
Okay, so here's where we go. Recently, we published a book.
There it is.
Magickal Musings of a Rogue Witch.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
And what we did there with that, the whole deal was, in the lineage I was initiated in, there was this expectation that if you've had a lifetime in magic,
Bubbles
sooner
has
or later, pardon me?
Bubbles has a book. Amelia. Sorry.
Well, yeah.
We all call her Bubbles. So if we hear that throughout the show, that means Amelia. That's her.
Okay. Cool.
Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
So this flavor was that when you retire, you should write your book of life in magic.
Right.
Some people write the proverbial, excuse the expression, Betty Crocker book of spells, that kind of thing. Right. Some people write a management book, how to manage gaggles, circles, covens, clans, that kind of stuff. Right. There other people have written the story of their coven, maybe over 40 or 50 years, and others have gone out and just written a memoir of their life. And I retired in December of as a pastoral priestess. I retired in December of 2001. And I looked at this and I said, what am I going to do for this? Now, I attempted to start writing something like this a number of years before, about 8 years before. I showed the manuscript to my adult daughter, a magical adept in her own right. And of course, she trained with someone else because mom's stupid.
Always the way.
Okay, always the way. You can't teach them anything. Right. And she read it, and she looked at the first manuscript and of my attempt to do this, and she said, "I think you're handing out loaded shotguns to third graders."
Wow,
you made it too simple.
I was just saying that. This is so much, even a layman can understand it.
Well, okay, this is the second try. I took that one out. I let it sit on the shelf for a couple of months, went out, read it again, and I said, all right. I took it out in the backyard, put it on the grill, poured lighter fluid over it, and burned the manuscript.
Oh, you did not?
I did. This is around 2000. Oh. This is around 2004. And so what I did, actually, it was around 2004. So what I ended up doing is, as I actually did retire, the last year I was teaching. It's COVID. We were all locked down. Right. And I picked up 44 students. We had nothing. None of us had anything better to do but watch streaming TV and drink, right?
So that's a bad combination, though, the drinking and the spell casting. Could be interesting, mind you.
But most classes, you teach a class, and for those who don't know this about when you teach, you start out with 40 or 50 students, and you're lucky to finish with 4 or 5.
Hmm.
Some people leave and say, "Oh, I didn't know studying magic was like taking like a very heavy college course," and it was a lot of reading, it was a lot of writing.
Mhm.
And they didn't know this, or they said, "Oh, I no, this isn't where I'm going. I think I want to go over here with the Norse guys or shamanism or something like that." Okay, fine, great. It was a good place to find yourself,
Right. Right.
And after about 5 to 6 months, you've weeded out all the I don't want to call them the wannabes, but the people who didn't know what they were getting into.
Mhm.
Okay.
Right.
And so, but because we were locked down, this is the first time I ever had to teach a virtual class.
Mhm.
So it started. I had a private page on Facebook, and of course, I got introduced to Zoom about that time.
Right.
Okay, we had
Mhm.
Skype and Zoom available to us, so I was doing these classes virtually. I was writing these essays. Of course, I had been a columnist for Wicca magazine for a couple of years, so I already had a style for how I would explain magical things.
Mhm.
So I had this whole collection of articles I had written, and then all these essays I wrote for the class, teaching that first year and a day kind of stuff. Okay.
Mhm.
And I came from the school. I was taught spell casting right off the bat, like most people, a little bit of God and goddess stuff, and then,
Mhm.
start learning spell casting.
Right.
And 20 years into it, 44 years, I said, this is ass backwards. We should be learning divining up front. Most people don't even bother. Oh, I don't monkey with that stuff. We should be doing divining up front, because the whole issue of being able to do magic is thought in the form. And the only way you can do this thought in the form stuff is you have to talk to the younger self, your connection to the great consciousness. And if you don't establish a good nonverbal charades relationship with your younger self to communicate nonverbal information to the younger self, you aren't going to be able to do it.
Mhm.
Okay.
Right. Right.
You can light all the candles you want, charge all the crystals you want, burn all the incense you want, burn all the little notes or put all the little notes in bottles with herbs. But if you can't visualize it, you're not going to manifest it.
Right.
So
Right.
I wrote this in a style, basically, and I said the style. In fact, I've gotten a lot of mail on this style. I wanted you to feel like you were in the room with me.
Mhm.
And a lot of people who read it dropped me emails, says, "My God, Cheryl, this is like sitting in a cafe with you."
Got great reviews. Absolutely.
Yeah. So
You know.
I thought they'd all hate it. All these people who put these blurbs on the
No.
back, I thought they were going
Wow.
to absolutely hate
Wow.
this.
No, absolutely. Yeah, just saying hi to everybody chiming in. I
Yes.
see
Hi,
you all.
everybody.
Hello. Enjoy, enjoy. Yeah, I do
So
agree with Camara. Intention.
ask questions, please. Feel free.
Yeah, well, intention, right? And it's about intention, which a lot of people don't realize. Otherwise, you're just going through the motions.
Yeah.
So for you, that was your starting point, and from there. Oh, hold on. Okay, we're talking about witchcraft tonight. So I'm going to let Cheryl continue on, please.
Okay. Yeah. Especially if you thought I was going to do something about UFOs. Now, I didn't come out of the
Nope.
closet on UFOs
Right.
until 2013 when I started writing a
Right.
newspaper column about it.
Right.
That's when I came out on that topic matter. That was like the last of the big come out of the closet things for me, because I'd been reading stuff about UFOs since I was 12.
Right.
Okay. Not that I was a fanatic about it. I didn't have little models of it, didn't have pictures posted all over my room, but anytime I had something come across my desk, or my mother had something, or we saw something in the library, I read it,
Right.
Um,
Right.
so part of being a witch, from my view, is coming to grips and facing that secret identity, shadow self, that you put, that little mask you put on in front of everybody else, and say, "I'm just a normal person here in the suburbs like you are."
Right.
You
Right.
know,
It's like, okay.
all the time
Right.
that I'm reaching in my back pocket, making sure my wand doesn't show, So,
Right. Right. Okay.
um,
Right.
I had a camera crew here, weekend before last. They
Right.
were with us all weekend,
Right.
shooting a documentary about our current UFO research. Okay.
Right.
And they were here in the apartment all weekend with us. And at one point, when the guy was over here in my work nest area, and he saw my wand laying on the desk, he says, "Wow, is that a real magic wand?" Yes. He says, "Can I touch it?" He starts to reach for it. And I said, "If you want to walk out of here on human feet, don't touch it." And
It depends. How do you like your life as it is?
yeah,
You know.
he says,
That's
"Does
funny.
magic really work?" Well,
Right.
I used to be a boy.
Right. Oh my God.
But one of the other important things about magic is this
Mhm.
idea of intention.
Right.
Too many people want to learn this stuff because they know they can covertly. I'm going to get Susie. I'm going to fix her wagon for stealing my boyfriend. That kind of thing. Okay,
Right.
there's
Right.
too much of that.
Right.
Okay, and the best magic you can do is channeling at yourself to
Right.
make yourself grow, to develop yourself, to mature yourself, to discover yourself.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
it's a message I hammered home in this book. You should be turning it in upon yourself. Don't waste it on these other people, except maybe for some occasional healing. Don't waste it on other people. Put it into your own life.
Mhm.
Don't sit here and try and use magic like a vending machine. I want a new scooter. I want a new bicycle. I want a new surfboard.
Right.
Forget the material goods. Think about, where do you want to be 20 or 30 years from now? And what can you do with the magic to steer the course of your life so these things manifest?
Mhm.
Okay. I mean, too many people, especially in the mundane world, think everybody wiggles a nose and supper appears,
Right.
and young people, no, it's not like that. It's not arcs and sparks like you see on Harry
No.
Potter. It's as
No.
gentle as a baby's breath.
Right. Amelia and I were actually talking about that today. That's a really nice analogy. Like, it's a nice way to put it. People think it's all so gloom and doom and high powered intensity, and it's really not. You're basically making it, saying, no, it could be a very gentle process. You can just ease right into it, gently.
Agreed. And I know I mentioned in the book, there was this thing, I have this attitude about these great big, we got 30, 40 people together. We raise some really great energy,
Yeah.
No. You raise some really great endorphins.
Right.
Okay.
True.
Because those 20 to 40 people were not focused on what your intent was.
Right.
Trust me. Okay, you can't get 40 people to focus in on that kind of stuff.
Right.
You might be able to get them to focus in on the Super Bowl, but you'll never get them to focus in on your magical target.
Right.
And so I tell people, don't expect to do your spell today and have it tomorrow or early next week. It's not a pizza you're going to get in 30 minutes.
See, Bubble, she is one of us. She does pizza talk.
Yes, there you go.
I know. Always with the pizza talk, Bubbles.
Nothing like a nice big pepperoni pizza with a little bit of sausage on top and some pepper, some fresh peppers.
Yeah.
That type of thing. And if you're really, really exotic,
Right.
shrimp.
I don't know how exotic I'd feel with that, but the shrimp. Stab my pizza, shrimp. That'd be me.
Seafood pizzas are very interesting. They really are.
Bubbles. Oh my God, I love you, Amelia. Yeah. I know. Right there. Magic is like the ripples of a pond. It's a process to change energy.
Absolutely.
It is.
And
exactly.
A guy, I never played a musical instrument.
Right.
Okay, well, I played a recorder for a little while. It wasn't that great at it.
Me all.
And I had a layer. Okay. And I got so I could play Amazing Grace on it,
Right.
And but the thing is, a guy friend of mine who played a tuba. He taught me this lesson. He was a witch too. And he said, playing this tuba is about getting air to move.
Right.
Okay. And magic is about getting energies to move.
Mhm.
Okay,
Right.
the energy you're already you don't have to churn it up from yourself. You're walking through an ocean of it on a day-to-day basis.
Right.
The
That's
great
true.
consciousness is all around all of us, everywhere, every when, every being, everywhere, every when. And all you have to do is get that younger self to kind of connect and manifest a nonverbal thing into the mind stream. And baby, maybe provided temporal relationships and karmic relationships are in sync, things will happen.
Right. Maybe.
Okay.
Yeah.
A lot of people in the craft community, I don't believe in karma. Believe me, it believes in you.
Yeah, see, that's a good thing that you actually talked about that, because I don't think people understand that when you're working with energy and you're directing energy elsewhere, and based on intention, somebody needs a good, I'm going to give you a shot. Chances are, energy wise, I'm going to give it to you, but I am taking on potential karma, getting a shot of my own, right? It
Yeah.
can. You do take it on. It's a chance that you take.
Yes. There is a burden,
Yeah.
and a lot of people try to think it's like a pass from the teacher. Okay, you're going to get 3 demerits. You did such and such. It doesn't work that way. It's more like, think about that chain wrapped around Ebenezer Scrooge. It was twice as long last Christmas, that kind of thing,
Just dragging it longer.
Exactly.
Heavier. Yeah.
It is a build-up thing. It
Mhm.
might not bite you tomorrow, but I've seen people do some really nasty stuff over the years, and then they wonder how come their mother came down with cancer, and their 2 oldest kids got killed in a head-on collision.
Mhm.
Suddenly out of
Right.
nowhere.
Right.
It's not all chance. There's currents.
Repercussions.
There's currents. There's repercussions and currents in
Right.
doing this stuff. And like I said, I teach my students the last 20 years, one, learn how to meditate. One of the ways we taught them to meditate was to make bread.
No.
Okay. Because if you didn't pay attention to what you were doing with the bread, with single point of mind view, okay, the bread came out crappy,
Mhm.
or came out really bad. Okay.
That's true.
Or
Yeah,
worse,
that's true. Intention. Love the bread.
Okay,
Mold the
but
bread.
love the dough. Play with the dough. Be at one with the
Really,
dough.
I make bread. Lots of it. Very good bread too.
Same here. Yeah.
Meditate, Bubbles. Do it while you're making your bread.
What we had a class, 2002 to 2005. I taught a class. Okay,
Right.
and a whole bunch of high schoolers and early college kids signed up.
Right.
Okay. And somehow they read something somewhere that said, if you ask the teacher 3 times, even if she turns you away by the 3rd time, she has to take you.
Oh.
And I think some Jewish kid told them that's what you got to do with rabbis are going to turn you away 3 times if you want to convert to Judaism, or something like that, So I told them, I said, okay, we'll do this on Saturday mornings. You're all going to learn how to make bread. So I'm going down to Sam's Club and I'm buying like 50-pound bag of flour, a 5-pound bag of yeast, 25-pound bag of sugar, that kind of thing. I had to go buy a whole bunch of cheap bowls at the dollar store kind of thing to do this stuff in.
Right.
And they would come over about 8 o'clock on Saturday morning. They all go right to work. No chattering across the table. They'd be sitting around this big kitchen table, and they'd all be mixing up their stuff. And the idea was to be quiet with the dough, working it, kneading it, and things like this. And then we'd get ready for class about 8:30, 8:45. We'd lay a wet towel over each of the bowls, let the bread do its first rise. We'd go in and do it like a 45-minute to an hour's lecture. And we'd come back out, beat the bread down some more, all this, put it in another warm, wet towel on top of it, go back in, have another deep class. And then we'd come out and load them in these bread tins, okay, to let them rise, and then go back in, do another lecture,
Right.
So by the time we got done, about 12:30, 1 o'clock in the afternoon, in most cases, we had these golden loaves of bread coming out
Right.
as we were finishing a morning's worth of teachings.
Mm-hmm.
And it worked very well. Now, some families thought, well, this witchcraft can't be so bad. Hell, you're making really bread, and it's tasty too,
That's right. We
you
get
know.
the bread, we get fed.
But once we taught the bread making, and I used to have 10% of the people, you get a bunch of people there and say, your first spell is going to be how to make a little loaf of white bread. That's not real magic. And 10% of the people who came to the initial first night class anybody can come to stomp out. Okay.
Mm.
And you lose another 5% that went home, tried it, and said, oh, this is too messy. This isn't real magic. And it's not nothing I've read about in all these other books. I'm not going to do this anymore. So you lose about 15% of the class in the first week and a half or so.
Right.
First night to the first week and a half. And then there's the people who won't. They did it wrong. The loaf looks like hell,
Right.
and it's tilted up or didn't rise, something in that they're afraid to come in and face it. Well, if you aren't willing to suck it up and say, what did I do wrong?
Right.
You're never going to do magic.
Right.
It's a constant honing. It's kind of like learning to play a musical instrument. You don't sit down and play like Liberace.
No, you've got to get the technique right, and you've got to. That's what Amelia says. Bread is magic.
Bread is magic. And then as we got further along, once everybody actually learned how to perfect a loaf,
Yeah.
because we'd always have everybody sooner or later would have a misfire. We all do. Okay.
Mm.
But I still do, and I've been doing it 40 years, but generally, if you're making loaf of bread, we had a coven in the 90s. Okay. Very loose coven. There's only about 8 of us. And they would come up to my house on my apartment on Saturday morning. We'd mix all the dry goods, but the dry goods, the flours, the yeast, the sugars, all that kind of stuff in together. We'd have these big bowls, big wooden spoons, and we'd go into the front room after we got them all in the bowl, put on a belly dancing CD, and sit out there and stir this stuff with the belly dancing.
Right.
Those loaves of bread, whoa, they were fantastic. Yeah.
Right.
And so the bottom line was, after we got it, they got it so they can master the bread.
Right.
I explained to them that sooner or later down the road, you might want to work with tinctures or essential oils,
Right.
or you might want to work with certain kinds of potions. Okay. Your measurements and what you use to do these things has to be exact.
Right.
Okay. And this was the lesson of this stuff. There would be people who took that first night thing of white bread and they'd go to the store and they would not buy the flour I told them to buy. They would not buy the yeast I told them to buy. They wouldn't buy an oven thermometer. They wouldn't buy a little kitchen thermometer to test the water, that you're making sure the water's not too hot or too cold for the yeast.
Too hard for them. Too many steps.
Too many
sounds
steps.
Like.
Exactly.
It wasn't easy enough because it was too many steps to try to remember, try to master.
Or they come home from work.
It sounds like to me,
and not do it the night before. They'd come home from work the day of the thing and throw it in the oven. The oven's not at temperature.
Yeah, they were not liking that too much. No.
But once we taught them how to get a good golden loaf out of it, then we started let's look at the elements of the bread itself, what we're building, and say, these represent water, earth, air, fire. The yeast is fire, So here now we can make an offering with this thing, and if we're thinking and are targeting our nonverbal thinking about a spell we're trying to work, the actual manifesting of the bread is a physical example of how well we did.
Right. No, I completely agree with you on that. Like Kathy says, many students want instant gratification, and you're not going to get that first time around. It's just, if it's too hard, like they don't want to try. But if it's too easy, you haven't earned it.
That too. Yeah. Like I said, that last class, we started out with 45. We initiated 4.
Wow.
I've had over 300 students, and I have initiated about 30 in 40 years.
Wow, really?
Yeah.
Wow, those are really low numbers considering how many
I'm a
students you
tough
started with.
teacher. I'm a tough teacher. You got to
Yeah,
really, you've got to want to do this. It's got to be burning inside you to do this.
right,
And I tell them right up front, this is not about dancing around in robes. It's not about burning
right,
incense,
right.
lighting candles, and charging crystals. I said, you won't find any of that on my magical altar or my shelf. And oh,
No.
by the way, I used to be a volunteer fire person. I don't
Mm.
want to see 90 candles on your altar. That is
No,
a
no.
fire hazard.
No, as Zachman says, something may have a lot of steps, but in order to achieve success and the goal one is aiming for, all steps need to be completed. And I'm just going to redrop some comments so we don't lose them all. They don't have dedication to get a good base to move forward. I agree. Fellow mine depends on.
Somebody asked me a couple of days ago. I was in a conversation with someone, and they said, who did you end up initiating? I said, the best of the best, or the people with the most stamina.
Right.
I was one of those people back when I was in a particular coven environment after I got out of being a solitary, so to speak.
Right.
There was this group called the Thursday Irregulars. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And we met on Thursdays, and we had couples. I had a spouse at that time,
Mm-hmm.
and this is in my male persona.
Mm-hmm.
And we all broke up with other people in the group. There was about 8 of us. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so my spouse went off for this other guy, for a priest, and all this. They broke it up. And me and this other lady, we'll call her Moonbow. And 2 of us got together. So it was 2. Well, she figured me out very quickly. It was essentially 2 women doing a circle.
Right,
But
right.
but I was very closeted at that time.
Right.
And the funny thing was, everybody else would get up there and do these grand ceremonies and do all this stuff with a degree of precision. It was a Broadway show, for God's sakes.
Right.
I get up there with my 355 cards with my ritual, and you do something wrong and they flip, or you end up setting them on fire on the candle or something, and the joke was with the rest of the group was you could almost hear the gods down the hall rolling on the floor laughing,
Right. Right.
and so when our advisors were talking to everybody, he said, well, you can't initiate Costa and Moonbow. You can't. Why? They're the biggest screw ups.
Right.
That's where that line, you can almost hear the gods on the floor laughing their ass off, And so they initiated everybody but the 2 of us.
Wow.
But 3 weeks later, all the elders from the clan invited us to something, the 2 of us to something, and they initiated us. And we said, why are you doing this?
Yeah.
Said, we're the screw up. Everybody
Wow.
laughs at what we do. And they said,
yeah.
sometimes the gods like sacred clowns.
There we go.
Well, here we are 44 years later, and we're the only 2 that are still in the craft.
Wow. That is interesting. Good for you guys.
Directions, things like this.
Like a fly by night sort of thing.
Yeah.
I just want to make mention of Marcus's comment. We are used to serial witches and demons. We believe ghosts are real. It is film on white paper, really, real world, non-existent work. Don't fill the mind with garbage. Essentially, it is your house. What to keep depends on you, is what I'm okay. Yeah. Did my best with that one, Marcus, but there it is up there. And nothing in nature is perfect. Exactly. That's also a good comment, Tamara. Nothing in nature is perfect. But do you want me to put something back up? Is this one you want?
Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to make sure I read that.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I'll leave it up for you.
I'm doing a class. I had a book signing. Anybody who see me on Facebook, there's a lovely picture of me sitting in this big wingback chair in this lovely library of a craft store. Okay. And of course, their big cat, Alistair, was crashed out on the table for most of the morning when I'm trying to sign books around him, you know.
Right.
And I was there for 2 days, sold a crate of books. Okay.
Right.
But what was funny wasn't just signing. People would come into this side room of the craft store and we'd get into a conversation. And next thing you know, the owners would look in and I'd have 6 or 7 people sitting on the floor and I'd be having essentially a little mini impromptu class on something. And we
Right.
ran the range from the most elementary aspects of beginner magic to almost a 90-minute conversation between me and 2 Santeria priestesses. And we were into a deep conversation and never realized we had almost 15 people listening to us.
Wow. Very nice. Yeah.
And so what happened is that the owners of the store signed me up to teach a couple hours worth of seminars. I'm not teaching covens. I'm not teaching new students, but I'm teaching seminar classes for about every 2 weeks for the next 6 months for the store.
Nice.
And the one we're doing tomorrow is, hang on. Oh, okay. I don't. Okay. The one we're having tomorrow, or actually Saturday, is we're doing 2 classes of this, a repeat. It's a 2-hour window and a 45-minute break and another 2-hour window for another class. The cost of craft. Okay, and a lot of people think, well, that's, where do you buy your wands and things like that? No. It's about that whole thing with the shadow self.
Right.
When are you going to be out about it?
Right.
What is the cost? I lost my family.
Right.
My blood family, I'm disowned and disinherited because I'm a witch. They got over me being a trans person, but they could not handle me being a witch.
No, the witch is a little too much. Right. Okay.
Okay. And when they realized, how deep I was into it, especially, sent them home a copy of the Washington Post, in 1991.
Larry King, I think, would have done it for some families.
Yeah. Something went right along with that. My mother is a hellfire and brimstone Pentecostal.
Oh, geez.
She was in this Assembly of God church at that time.
Yes.
And I think what broke it for her, she was at the church, and some of these bigger, I don't want to call them mega churches, but like a little mini mega church kind of thing.
Right.
The pastors used to use overhead view foils. Okay. And he says, and one day he's up there and he says, oh, and the witches have a regularly scheduled television program in our nation's capital. It is terrible. And he throws a viewfoil up there, and there's me and Kestrel on the front page of the Metro section of the Washington Post, That didn't go over well. So that's one thing you lose.
Right.
Okay. You lose that shadow self kind of values a little. I'm being private. If you don't have to tell people, you don't have to shout it on the street corner like I do. But how do I want to say this? It's not being afraid to speak out as what you are. Because you have a view of reality that's different than most people. You have a politics that's probably different than most people.
Right.
Okay. And if you're afraid what the neighbors are think, this is not the path for you, because it's going to eat you up inside. You can't be out with anybody.
Right.
That's why for a long time, the only time people could really, take off their shirt and show their boobies and have a good time, and dance and take off the skirt and dance around the fire. We're at these summer festivals out in the middle of nowhere.
It's everybody expressing themselves freely, right? And that's witches. That'll do it.
Don't go back home and go back into a shell. So this is where things are. And, we miss you, Amelia. Get better. We'll send you love and light here.
Yeah, we'll have to do it with Cheryl again sometime. You're feeling better. Yeah, no, I can see that. Absolutely. So do you feel like for some, it's sort of a fad, a movement?
Yes.
As opposed to the fact that it's actually a lifestyle for the serious.
Yeah, it is.
Right.
I teach in the book, Art, Science, and Lifestyle.
Right.
Okay. It is definitely an art. It's like playing a musical instrument or making a loaf of bread or making pottery. There's skill involved. There's finesse involved. There is experience involved. Okay. The science now. A lot of people will argue with you. Oh, it can't be science. It's all that foofy stuff. Yeah, but they did a poll a long time ago. Janet Farrar wrote this in one of her books. That 70% of the people she interviewed in the craft at some festival worked in the technical sciences and the scientific field.
So were you guys all just overworked and decided it'd be fun to run naked in the woods? What is it? Why do you think it is?
If this stuff didn't work, if the magic wasn't real, they wouldn't
Right.
still be in it.
Got it. Right.
Okay. And what did I call it in this book? This book was an exercise in writing mystical practices, magical. What's the word I use? I'm drawing a blank of what I said. It was magical mechanics and mystical physics. This is a very advanced form of physics.
Right.
Okay. This is where, and this is. Why did I suddenly come out in the UFO community as a witch? Heck, I'm doing a program on the 1st of May with Thin Lizzie Borden. We were on this other show a couple of weeks ago. She popped up in the side room. They dragged her into the interview with me, and we both came out on the show as witches. And the producers of the show said, "Would you come back and do a special on May 1st? Just witches and UFOlogy?" We said, "Sure. We'll come and talk to you about fantastic strangeness."
I know. I like the way they mix together. Like, I know there's one part of this where you're like, how do I touch an alien? We all want to touch I won't say we all want to touch an alien. I could have touched an alien one night. So close. This is like right there. But I'm thinking, no, I think I want to touch him for real. So your perspective.
The 3 that I have met,
Okay.
off-worlders that I have met. Remember, I used to be a journalist. Okay.
Yes.
Fox Mulder or Mr. Kojak, one or the other. The ones that I have met, I'll give you an example. If you were to Google something like reptilian aliens, you always find this artwork of these guys, muscles, and they look like they need a case of prune juice in a which way. That kind of thing. But the people I've interviewed that have a tight friendship and relationship with somebody who is a reptilian race.
Okay, see, I'd be interested in learning more about that because you look at them and they just look like they want to eat you and not in a pleasant way.
They're gentle, soft-spoken, and enlightened.
Come on.
Really.
See, even Dolly, who has experience with many ETs, is going, wow. Right, Dolly? I know. And I don't think I've ever
they have a very interesting sense of humor, and the sense of humor, it's
not come across too many nice reptilians. See, even Bubbles is on. We're all going seriously? What? Wow. Is this one of those judging a book by its cover thing?
Yes.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Oh, think about this a minute, man. There was a snake in the Garden of Eden. Oh my goodness,
Yeah, that means
no, it was a lizard. It was a dragon. And what did the dragon say to Eve? You're better than this.
Yeah.
You're better than this. He isn't in charge. You're smarter than he is. You're more mature than he is. And what was that? Do you know what the apple really was? They've only discovered this last couple of years.
It's knowledge, isn't it? Like the serpent represents knowledge.
That's the intellectual side of it.
Thank you.
They've been digging this place over in Turkey called Göbekli Tepe.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
They discovered that this was I don't want to call it the Garden of Eden, but think of it like the beer hall version of it,
right?
Of Eden. Okay.
Yeah.
And they found pits. They couldn't explain these pits, and they dug into them, and they got samples out, and they found beer yeast, and they were brewing beer. The women were brewing beer. Okay.
Right.
And what our fall from the garden was, these guys would all come back from the hunting trips, and they'd roast the meat and they'd drink the beer, and they had to have lots of beer, and they'd tell great stories of great hunts and all this wonderful stuff. And as long as the beer flowed, everybody was happy.
Right.
So to keep up with the trade, they had to learn to start culturing the grains in order to keep up with the supply of materials they needed to make the beer.
And the bread.
This has only been discovered in the last 5 years over in Gilbert Tempe.
Wow.
Wow. And
right.
so beer was the fall from grace from the thing, because suddenly we had to start developing less of this hunter-gatherer type of thing and actually start doing agriculture.
Right.
And organizing things more and being an organized culture. And that was our exit. That meant we had to work in the fields, all that stuff the Bible talks about, right? Go work by the sweat of your brow. Okay, fine. That's what this was about. This was about establishing.
I'm sorry. This is awesome.
Establishing a civilization.
Right. So that's what the snake was.
And yes, there are
really a reptilian.
There is at least one reptilian race that has been on our planet for eons.
Right.
Okay, they're not even considered aliens anymore. They landed here, they colonized here, and they live underground, and they're a pretty sophisticated culture in themselves. I can't go into it beyond that.
Right.
But the two people I interviewed that had, let's say, deep friendships with them. They're soft-spoken, they're humorous, they're enlightened. Okay, gentle. I've got 2 sketches of them, and they're not like what you think. They're not what you would think they are. Okay, so back to magic. Magic. There's a chapter.
So you were talking about touching aliens, so I was trying.
Okay. Now people ask me.
That's in the book.
I lost 4 students this year on that essay. They said, I don't believe they can get here from there. Okay. And I said, you aren't even open to the idea that maybe they've been walking among us for a long time, since biblical times, No, they can't be here. And if they come here, they're going to blow us to bits. I said, they could have done that in 1561 in Nuremberg, Germany, baby. No, they can't be here. And I had one lady who just absolutely, I can't accept that there's alien life at all. If there is, I can't accept that they're here.
Huh.
So I wrote that essay about the idea of, before I taught these students about the idea that we're connected to everything, everywhere, everywhen. And anybody who was in my remote viewing classes over the last 20 years will tell you, I've been to the moon. I've seen the aliens in the base and the backside of the moon. I have touched one of the rovers on Mars. Okay. And things like this. But we also discovered something. When you're doing remote viewing, you're working with these rollerball pens, and you're answering a set of standard questions while you're kind of in the zone, and you're being asked to draw information on this little target cue, which is a little sequence of about 8 to 10 numbers, which is connected to something in that envelope. Okay, which is connected to something somewhere else. It's technically a version of correspondence magic, and you'll find sympathetic magic and all that kind of thing, but you'll hardly ever find a write-up about correspondence magic.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So think of it this way. Okay, in a voodoo movie, they'll say, okay, got a picture of Frank, and we're going to put a couple of pins through it.
Screw you, Frank. That's it. Yeah.
Okay, we're going to make Frank, in the movie The Witches, you saw Jack Nicholson just bend over when they put a pin through the leg of that little doll,
Right.
Okay, that's a puppet. All right. But you could do the same thing with the 3x5 card. Okay. Give Jack Nicholson's character a cramp in his thigh, put it on a 3x5 card today, or 2:00, put it in a 3x5 card, put it in an envelope, put the sequence on it. You can't touch it because you know what's in there, but you can have 20 other people and say, direct all your magical energy at this number, Okay. Oh, hell, give me 20 seconds. Give me 20 seconds.
While you're doing that, I'm going to read off a couple of comments.
Please do.
Zachman says, I agree. There are beings, extraterrestrials, interdimensional, etc. among us. As a contactee, I can attest to that. And I am with you on that. Same situation. Dolly says, there are 18 other compounds around Gobekli Tepe. Absolutely. And yes, they have been here since the very beginning. Yeah, there are a lot of
They have
stories.
shepherded our culture.
Yes.
And the thing is, you get these military types these days. There's two schools of thought. One school of thought says, "Oh, we got to." The average person out here, they're not ready for this information.
Yeah.
Okay, for those who've never heard me speak on this topic, in the last 20 years, 2001 to 2020, we had 100 in the United States, 169,632 reported UFO sightings based on National UFO Reporting Center and MUFON data. Okay, that
Right.
doesn't count all the little mom and pop reporting services, and it does not report the 249 people who don't report one. Only
Right.
1 in 250 people report what they see.
Mhm.
Okay. And we've got statistical data and polling data that backs
Right.
that up. Okay.
Right.
Now we were talking about one of these little sequences. Here's one right here.
Okay, there we
Okay.
go. Right.
I've got a group of students right now that are working on that target right now.
Right.
Okay. I don't even know what it is.
Right.
Okay. I stuffed
Okay.
this envelope 2 years ago. I have no idea. I got a bag over here with 100 envelopes in them. Okay.
Right.
And I have
Right.
other people who stuff them for me and say, hey, a couple envelopes for your thing, we'll throw them in there,
Right.
So
Right.
it's the trick is you can't know about it. Now, give you an example. How does that work? Why does that work well? In remote viewing, if I give you that sequence and I take you through a series of it's one of these things you can't say, oh, I feel this and feel that. No. Remote viewing, and the way the military developed it, it's a set of very structured questions. It
Right.
starts out very simply, like, what's it feel like? Is it hard? Is it soft? Is it wet? Is it dry? And then it gets up into, does it have a texture? And it works up the temperatures and things like this, maybe a flavor or a smell. And they start working you through all the senses. And you're writing data down, but you're told, don't sit here and try to figure out how it's working. They'll take you out of the zone in a heartbeat. And
Right.
don't sit here and try and guess what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Right.
I had a student once upon a time. You'll love this. Once upon a time, drew this. Okay. Okay. And she immediately jumped up there and said, oh, that's got to be a truck or a vehicle or a car. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's when she blew herself out of the zone. She did that, shifted her consciousness from that right brain thinking to conceptual thinking,
Right.
left brain thinking, and it completely took her out of the zone.
Right.
The target ended up being a fruit basket.
Wow. Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
All right.
Oh,
I had
yeah.
a gal who said, oh, my EAP, she wasn't going to do the structured thing.
Mm-hmm.
And we kept trying to walk this one student. I did it on Zoom. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Talk them through the protocols. And she wouldn't follow the structure. Oh, I can
Right.
just tell you what it is. And she starts drawing it in the margins. By golly, she damn near drew the thing. It was a motorcycle. Ended up being a Harley motorcycle. And you could see the stanchions, you could see the exhaust pipe. She had all this stuff, pieces of that motorcycle sketched in the margins,
Mm-hmm.
but she didn't follow the protocol.
Right.
Okay. And we had several arguments, and she was also one of the people and say, ET can't get here. And finally, I basically said, either get with, I'm not telling you to believe in this stuff, but I'm telling you to be a little bit more open-minded, because craft is about fantastic strangeness.
Right.
Heisenberg, the scientist who one of the scientists who came up with quantum mechanics, says
Right.
the universe is stranger than we know and stranger than we can know.
Right.
And
Exactly.
if you do this
Exactly.
stuff, when Linda came into my household 20 years ago, I told her up front, you're coming into a magical household. Be careful what you think. Be careful what you say. Be careful what you say in anger.
Right.
Okay. And she has become very, let us say, over the first 3 years, as she made things happen just because she was here. She has been extremely respectful of it and just, quite an effective hedge witch these days.
Right.
Wasn't
We
in the
know.
magic then, but
Yeah,
she is
well,
now.
we're
You
all
know?
just going to leave that right there. Right. So, right.
But the key thing was
Yeah.
reaching out to touch aliens. People say, "Why can't I? If I'm touching everything, why can't I?" Well, okay, something we found out with remote viewing.
Right.
If there's a subconscious thing, you don't know what that target is. So
Sure.
we had some standard target cards. I always had the people who were stuffing envelopes for us.
Right.
2 times removed from us. It was the people who stuffed the envelopes, blank envelopes, and they might put pictures in there. They might put 3x5 cards with information in there to target. And then somebody else, a completely different person, a couple of weeks later, would put the random numbers on there from a random number generator on the computer.
Mm-hmm.
And I'd get this nice big sack of 100 envelopes.
Right.
Okay. I know I've got target cards in there, but I have no idea what 25 of those cards are, which ones they are. Okay.
Right.
And we started noticing a pattern with some of the classes. When the remote viewer is doing something, if you can't get anything more on it,
Mm-hmm.
you put your pen down and you put it down loud.
Mm-hmm.
And usually the proctor will tell you, pick the pen up, touch that number that you've written down on your paper, touch that sequence number and see if you can retouch the younger self a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And okay.
Mm-hmm.
Well, okay. Those cards, these people, 2 or 3 people of a group of 10 people would put their pens down.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't do it. One guy broke out into a cold sweat.
Mm-hmm.
So what is going on here? So when we got into analysis after the session was done,
Mm-hmm.
the one target card was the Titanic, where it is now, under 2 miles of water.
Yeah.
And if you looked at the guys, what they call AOL, anomalous logging, down the margins,
Yeah.
I'll die. It's too deep. It's dark. You know, things like that.
Wow.
When we sent people to the, hair.
There. That happens to me all the time.
There's a card in there for the alien base on the backside of the moon.
Mm-hmm.
And 1 or 2 people put their pens down. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
But the others sat there and looked at you and say, whoever those folks were, they didn't like us being there.
Yeah.
ET
And that would be true.
ET was well aware of them. Okay.
Right.
But the people who put their pens down looked at their AOL notes on the side. I can't go there. There's no air. It's too far.
Right.
Okay. So I started making notes in my logbook that it must be a self-preservation thing. You don't consciously know what the target is, but your subconscious is close enough to that younger self to know what the target is and say, oh my God, this is an arduous environment. I'll go there. I'll die.
I know. It's true. Yeah. Self-preservation. That would make sense.
Yes.
Sure.
This is exactly. So we had Mars targets. We had those water geysers on that moon from Saturn. Most of the class had to put their pens down.
Yeah.
There ended up being one card in there. We had 15 people for a hard target party. 15 people put their cards down. One lady crawled all over that target. She was drawing in the margins. She was writing down the protocols. She was doing all this stuff. She was a seasoned witch of 15, maybe 20 years. Seasoned witch, a risk taker, that type of thing. And she never put her pens down.
Right.
And so there was this leap of faith stuff. I'll go. Let's go. You know, let's run into the fire, you know.
Yeah.
And you know where it was?
Into the wind. Yeah.
It was Voyager 1 where it was. This is 2013, where Voyager 1 was like 13 billion miles from here. It was at the edge of the solar system. Radio signals took 10 hours to get here, kind of thing. She crawled all over that thing. And we had sketches. We were able to compare to pictures of Voyager. Okay.
Wow.
And it was amazing. But the thing what we learned out of this was, you want to reach out and touch the ETs on Zeta Reticuli 39 light years from now? Well, okay, couple of things. And I hear people all the time, I'd like to talk to an alien. Yeah, what would you talk to them about? TikTok? You know, what are you going to talk
I'm a
to
little
the
deeper
alien?
than that.
Yeah,
They're
hopefully.
used to me, I think.
Yeah. Well, so there was all this issue of reaching out. One, you got to be extremely settled and extremely quiet. Okay. And you're not going to do this with 2 weeks with meditation practice.
Yeah,
Okay.
Dolly says remote viewing ETs will get their absolute attention, and it can get you immediately looked at. And then getting back to Amelia's, who's interviewing from chat tonight, because she has no voice. What are your thoughts on natural remote viewers doing this? Do you think? I don't know. I personally think if you're natural,
if you're
would you?
natural, well,
Yeah,
okay.
would you have the
Natural
same
class.
boundaries, that self-preservation thing, or would it just be?
Oh, baby. Okay, let's
Oh,
go
here
there.
we go, Bubbles.
Keep me on
Right.
boundaries here in a minute. First thing,
Okay.
the naturals.
Yeah.
I've had a lot of self-proclaimed psychics come into a class, the first class, and they left at the end of the day and never came back because they couldn't do it.
Okay.
They wouldn't follow the protocols. They're going
Right.
to do it their way, and they wouldn't do it by what we were doing. And I usually taught a really good 90-minute class on how we're going to do this. Okay. And there was always refresher classes with every session we did,
Right.
And then there was you said talk about the boundaries. Well, sometimes there was a target in there that would be someplace really special. Like remember, other people were stuffing these envelopes.
Right.
Okay. Somebody stuffed one in there with the White House.
Mm.
And this one class, which is about half pagan witch people type thing, half, not all. Okay. Said, put their pens down. Some of them put their pens down and said, they're not supposed to be there. They didn't know what the target was. And we came away from target analysis afterwards. We open up the envelope, see what the target is, and go over everybody's sheets. And we realized, my God, the White House is warded.
Wow.
Okay. We tried it on a couple of sensitive military installations, got the same situation. So there are people in places in our government who are very magically attuned.
And they're watching.
But they're not worried about each one of us. They're worried about other people. Okay, but that boundaries thing was another thing. But amazingly enough, ET is very receptive to us reaching out. Okay, very receptive to it, very aware. Not all of them are interested in having us peek over their shoulders.
Right.
And but we had those kinds of target cards where of reaching out. There's this picture of this little skinny gray alien that was taken by the KGB back in the 50s. They call him a Gray Bob. Okay.
Right.
And a lot of people have tried to remote view on him. Now here's what's interesting. The common response that comes back afterwards: would you people leave me from the future? Leave me alone.
Oh, poor guy.
Yeah.
Oh, somebody could rescue him.
So one of the points in the chapter I did about fantastic strangeness, if you're going to get into the craft, you got to keep in mind that it can get really squirrely. And a lot of people say, "Oh, bring on the squirrely." I said, "You don't know what you're asking for."
Right.
Okay. It can get really squirrely. And I'm not saying anything like, "Oh, hey, let's go do some peyote and try and touch aliens."
It's like party hats.
I've never done hallucinogens.
Right.
Okay. But I've had some experiences that some other people have said, "You sure you haven't done hallucinogens?"
Not consciously.
No. But you can, if you go deep enough in your meditation, there's pretty wild stuff to experience once you get past this everything around us, this thing right here. It's all artificial. This is a construct. This is a big freaking holodeck, and we every now and then our spirits put on this bloody chicken suit, and we come down here to play this LARP called life. Okay, and then we die and we rest a little while, and then we put on another chicken suit and say, "Hey, what's the scenario for this one? Okay, let's go."
Wow. So I want you to hold that thought, because I actually have a question on it, but I have to do a station sponsor. I'm not going to do it as well as Bubbles, but here we go. So You are listening to The Outer Realm with myself, Michelle Desrochers, and Bubbles is in the chat. So Amelia Pisano is in chat. And our very special guest tonight is Cheryl Costa, Lady Tashi. Am I saying that probably?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. And we are talking about her new book, Magickal Musings of a Rogue Witch, which is getting rave reviews everywhere. And it's just, if you haven't tuned in or you're just tuning in, you've missed a lot of the fun. So you have to go back and check out the archive. But stay on board with us. We've got another half hour at least. We are fully sponsored by the amazing people over at Folgers Coffee, who literally have been with us from the beginning. So we thank you very much, Folgers. We love you. And of course, we appreciate you so much. And also big thank you to Dr. Snick, Justin Snicker, for his intro and his outro. He is an award-winning composer, again, of Halloween, horror, sci-fi, dark wave, electronic music, which can be found on Bandcamp, Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, you name it, you can grab it. So thank you, Justin. So now we are back, and let's talk about these confines. Are we living in the Matrix, or is just can we alter this reality, since it's just, I say, like, all the world's a stage really has a whole other meaning, right? The way you're putting it here.
It's thought in the form. Okay. And this is form. Now, Buddhist teaching will say it is the energy, everything, the energy around us, the force, whatever you want to call it, is emptiness. It's emptiness, not nothingness. It's emptiness. It's the idea of the ultimate potential.
Right.
I am the goddess of the universe. I am she. I am pregnant with universes.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And it's that concept. And the force has, our essence has everything. Everybody right now, with all these people trying to pass every bill they can about keeping transgender students from being in athletics and this and that, and you are what your DNA says you are. No.
Right.
You are not your body.
I'm wearing a different suit today. Dang it.
You are not your body, baby. You are not your body. This is just a chicken suit you drive around in while you're here. That's it.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Now I'll give you an example.
Okay.
You've done this meditation stuff for a long time. And apparently I was doing it in a previous lifetime because I always had a knack for it.
Right.
So when I was teenage years, I was experimenting, I was touching this feminine self, I was trying to understand it and everything. And I'm going to say it this way. There was these 16-year-old girls, 14, 15, 16-year-old girls, try it on, in the back of my noggin. They were past lives.
Oh.
The essence aspects of me, of us, past lives.
Right.
Okay. And so it's not a multiple personality disorder. It is, if you do deep studies in mysticism, deep studies in Buddhist theory, sooner or later, once you start clearing away the obscurity of all the trash that gets rattled around in our subconscious, because you can't walk into a restaurant without 5 screens up with some sports show on it. Okay. The everything going on here is intended to distract you. Doesn't want you to have a quiet mind. Okay. And that's the insidiousness of everything that's out there. The people bowing their head 70 times a day to the little God phone, this is the distraction. You have to, I've got a phone. Yeah, it's right here. I get about 3 phone calls a day on it. Okay. And it's some guy telling me the warranty of my car is expiring.
Right.
Okay. So no, I don't live on that thing like a lot of other people do. And I have a rule with my students, and it's in the book, magical students do best when their phone is either turned off or locked up in the car.
Right.
Okay. They come to my class, the phone
basically
stays out there.
Right.
There's nothing worse than sitting there in a meditation room with a bunch of people. You're sitting on meditation pillows. You're one with the universe, and somebody's phone is sitting over there on a prayer bench, on the prayer branch and starts buzzing and vibrating across the table.
Right.
Okay. Knocks you out of your meditation. And,
Right.
and or they're sitting on their phone. They have it in their back pocket. They're sitting on this meditation pillow, and they start reaching down, pulling out. Look like they're trying to pull an egg out from underneath them. We got to the point at the temple. I used to be a Buddhist nun. Okay, and at temple I lived in the Maryland suburbs. We had a rule. A couple of us used to monitor the prayer room before people would come in for organized sessions a couple nights a week.
Hmm.
Are you a member of the White House West Wing staff? We had people who were. Yet, okay, we put them off in a separate room because we knew they had to keep their pagers with them. Are you a member of the Defense Intelligence staff? Yes, we had people who were. They went into a separate prayer room. We had people. Are you an emergency medical technician, a doctor, a nurse running around with a pager right now? Are you on call? We had people who were. Okay. Are you a fire person, a fire rescue person, or a paramedic for a thing? I was. Okay. We had to take it off to a separate room and try to keep everybody else who was not. Phones off or locked up in your car. Go in and meditate. Be one with the universe for the next hour. The world can do without you for an hour.
Right. Agreed. So on that, let's touch a bit. I'm going to fast forward a bit.
I probably didn't answer the question.
Well, no, just because, I really want to touch on binding. We only have a half hour left.
You do.
Yes. So let's go with binding. People are very free with binding.
Fast to do it, aren't they?
Yeah. There's not a lot of thought in doing that sort of work. So what are your thoughts on it? How do you train your people? The do's and don'ts of binding.
I will tell them how it's done.
Yes.
But I say, who gives you the right to be judge, jury, and punisher, or in worst case, judge, jury, and executioner?
Okay.
Who made you that? Don't sit there and say, well, I use my own judgment. I say your judgment is flawed. You don't know all the story.
Right.
Okay. The guy you might think is an absolute monster might be the hero in the thing. Okay. You've got to, I've heard some very ludicrous ways that people say, well, I use my own judgment and I go after people. You know something, that guy, I know that guy down the street beats his wife. If you've ever thought about, instead of binding him, sending him a nice day, maybe he needs a nice day. Maybe he's had maybe he's got a really crappy job. Maybe he's up to his butt in bills. Okay. Maybe his wife's a nice person. Maybe she's a bloody shrew for all we know,
Right.
Send him a nice day. Maybe he needs a nice day. And I had a teacher a long time ago, really, really hopped on that one. Don't do this. Okay. You're not supposed to do this. Let the universe deal with it. I put a chapter. I think I put a thing in the chapter there that said, here's the prayer. Ask the universe to bring justice to this person and let the universe sort it out. Right. You don't need to be doing that. I don't believe in binding. And I know people say, well, but what about the child molesters? I know some witches that went after somebody they thought was a misogynist. Okay. He was just very awkward around women. Okay. And the blowback for them was, the rebound was, it affected their lives immensely. The ones who did that spell. Okay. And he ended up having he ended up finding the right woman. And think of the guy like Sheldon on Big Bang Theory. He was a very awkward guy. Right. And finally met somebody that he clicked with, and he lived a very, very lovely 22 years or something like that before he had a stroke and passed away. But the thing is, the people who tried to put that inhibiting spell on him bit the bullet. And I've seen nothing good come from that. Okay. Right. And so I do not recommend it.
Judgment can be flawed.
It is. Right. All human judgment is flawed.
Yeah.
And singular witches passing judgment on somebody, there are consequences to it. And I agree with what that other person just said just now. There are consequences.
That was Amelia. Yeah, she's back. She's teetering between, I would say, YouTube and the Facebook page. So that's it. Yeah, it is the outer realm.
But buying it, okay, here's the deal. The big deal. I've had people say, people write me since this invasion of Ukraine. Cheryl, there's all these Iraqi war and Afghanistan veterans are going over to fight for Ukraine. You're a combat veteran. Yeah, I was in Vietnam 50 years ago. I'm gonna get, if I went over there, I'd get in the way.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. Right.
I'm still a good shot and I'm still good with explosives, but but the problem is it was not for me to do. Right. And I've had people email me say, "Why aren't you melting Putin into the pavement?" It's not for me to make that judgment. Okay. Yeah. But there's a great gospel tune. Anybody who's seen Babylon 5 has heard the song.
Yes.
It's no place to hide. Okay. The rat was running around with no place to hide, no hiding place, right. But it's the truth. Ask for the forces of the universe to make the judgment and make and deliver justice. Mm-hmm. I know some people who went after Saddam Hussein.
Right.
And their spell was, may he be found alone and disenfranchised and alone in a hole. And that's where they found him. But it had a rebound on those people who did that spell. I know personally, and every one of them has suffered from having done it. Okay. Okay.
Right.
So, I don't recommend it. Send them a nice day. If they're really a jerk, they'll wrap themselves around a pole. I mean, that was one of my old teachers' attitude on things. But send them a nice day. You don't know what they've been through. You don't know what their life has been like.
Right.
Maybe okay. Karma is a very exacting law of the universe. I know there's a lot of groups on Facebook that say, "Oh, that's Buddhist Hindu stuff, karma." It doesn't. But they're usually trying to sell you black magic stuff.
That's it. Yeah.
Okay, that's a $4 billion industry, and they're usually trying to just blow it off and say, "Oh no, you can do that stuff. Don't worry about it. It won't hurt you, baby."
Good.
You don't do it, and doing this trippy magic of tripping people up and causing them little inconveniences.
Right.
Okay. I'm sorry. Why be mean? There's so much woe in the world. There's so much hurt in the world. Mm-hmm. When my best magic matured, when I learned the practice of making an offering for the benefit. Okay, we used to sit in these circles. I know everybody's done this. You sit in a circle, like in a moon circle, something like that. Maybe 25, 30 people crammed into somebody's cellar.
Yeah.
Okay, on a moon. And it's not on the weekend. It's on Tuesday night when the full moon is. We've had some priestesses really rigid about that,
Yeah.
And I had this one priestess. I used to go to her house for this stuff, and this old lady, God bless her, Rosemary, she'd have 24 candles in the altar, and there's 40 of us in this cramped cellar, and the fireman and he's going, "Oh Jesus, I don't like this,"
Right. I'm good.
This is not good.
Yeah.
But one of the things was we'd go around the circle. And I think anybody's been any kind of open circles will since, anybody got any special offering you want to do? Oh, well, my grandmother's sick and is going to have a kidney replacement, and my dog needs some work done on his leg. And they go to the next person, and they're spooning out the benefit of the magic by the spoonful. And they keep forgetting we're dealing with the most awesome power in the universe. And they're handing it out by the spoonful. And it would get to me at the end of the thing, and I would simply say, I make this offering for every being, for the welfare of every being, everywhere, every when. Mm-hmm. And that usually stopped it right there to circle with what she said,
Wow. Yeah.
But why
so
not?
You're service to others. You're not service to self.
I am a priestess of Isis. I am about... Now I'm going to draw a blank. Okay. I'm about compassion.
Right.
I'm sorry. I'm about service, sacrifice, compassion, and love unto all things. Mm-hmm. Isis, as a mother goddess, was a mother goddess, a mother. Mm-hmm. Okay. And she is very much a creator mother. And so those of us in the Sisterhood of Isis believe this idea of you're here to be of service. And there's
That's right.
too many priests and priestesses out there that are not. There's a lot of ego out there.
Oh, just people in general.
People in general. Yeah, right.
I've always had spirit say to me, serve. I'm saying, what am I supposed to do?
Yes.
And that, you know what spirit says? Serve.
Serve.
And
you
that's
bet.
always been, that's what I've done. Serve. So Stephen says, I don't mean to interrupt with this question. However, if you close yourself off to everything because of past pain, how would you reopen yourself to the universe and free yourself from yourself? Great question, Stephen.
It is. It is a good question.
I'm going to leave it up just so you can ponder on it.
Okay. If I'm understanding it correctly, again, sorry about the hair. I don't understand why it's getting into my mouth.
It's all right. It's good.
You have to chip away a little bit at a time. This is, you're not gonna deal with all your problems every day. Yeah, I'll give you an example. I wasn't dealing well with this whole disownship, and about 4 years ago, me being disowned and disinherited was less of, I was being shunned and banished and not invited to things, to actually them getting on the phone and say, okay, we've taken you out of the will. You're not welcome here. Don't bother us. Okay. I had to put myself back into therapy. I hadn't been in therapy since the early 90s, years after my gender change. Okay. And dealing with, you know, the meanness of people at work, things like this, you know, picking on the tranny lady, you know, and so I went back into therapy for 3 years. Okay. Just to cope with baggage I hadn't dealt with family. Okay. So it's all like this. It's okay. You can't do it all by yourself. Sometimes you do have to go out there and get a mundane professional. Now, the first time I opened up to this mundane professional social worker and said, I'm a card carrying witch, the guy about fell off his chair. His eyes got really big. Okay. He says, are you truly a card carrying witch? And I reached in my purse and handed that nice big black card to him that says magic on it and my priestess email address. And he went, oh my gosh, you know. And so I gradually got him straightened out on the fact that we're not sacrificing babies, we're not sacrificing little animals out in the glen out here and things like this. And once he got that through his head, then we just sat there and he came to understand what kind of a kind person I am, what kind of a compassionate person I am. 4 years up in upstate New York, while I was still, of the 7 years I was a Buddhist, ordained Buddhist nun, I was a chaplain to 4 hospitals. Now, I hear a lot of people say, well, I'd like to be a chaplain. Yeah, being a chaplain is a lot of fun at 3 o'clock in the morning when you got to be at work at 7 in the morning. Okay. You're up there for 3 hours at night, holding somebody's hand who's drawing their last breath. And then you got to sit there and work them through their Buddhist dying rites, which is essentially a controlled shutdown. You just don't pray over them after you die. As you realize they're in their last strokes, you set them up in bed and you literally take them into their final meditation and you walk them into the afterlife in the form of meditation. Okay. I'm trained in that. Not every monk and nun is. There was a screening process. Some people just couldn't deal with it. Okay. My Lama looked at me and says, oh, you're a death walker. You've seen death. You've held death in your arms. And that was before he knew I was a combat veteran. So, you know, I got to do that stuff. The bottom line of the whole thing is this job of I've had so many people, oh, I want to be a high priestess, these 20-year-olds. And I said, do you realize how much work it is? You know, this is not just about dressing up like a fairy princess once a month under the full moon, lighting a bunch of candles. It takes you a while.
It's not going to happen next month.
Exactly. And it's not about what you think is glamorous there.
Right.
It's about, you know, oh, by the way, fairy princess types, you know, with the big long drapey sleeves and candles on the altar. Do you know how many priestesses I've had to roll on the floor to put out the fire? Okay. Okay. No, we've gone to electric candles in this household. And people say, well, but it's not the same. It's not the combustion. I said, inside that battery, it's the same as combustion. Trust
That's
me.
right. The
Okay.
less the fire.
Okay. And I got a
Right.
wife who's a fire sign. So there's a little
Yeah.
bit of a clash there, but
Right, right.
but the thing is it's got to be about love. It's got to be about compassion. It's
Yes.
got to be about service to your community. Okay. And sometimes service to community isn't always telling them things they want to hear. It's sometimes telling them things
What
they
they
don't want to
need.
hear. I
That's
told
right.
one community, the reason you've never had a temple, you've never had these things, you'd like to have this nice pagan temple or a nice Wiccan temple here in this town.
Right.
None of you were energetic enough or imaginative enough to get off your butts and go out and make it happen till I came along.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I got, every door in the community closed to me.
Right.
It happened 2 or 3 times, over the years. Sometimes you got to tell them the truth. And as the great line Jack Nicholson has from A Few Good Men, you can't handle the truth.
That's true. Way to go, Jack. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So that's the key thing. The service part sounds easy. It is not. It is
right.
Being available whenever somebody else needs you.
And losing the ego, like
it
Wayne was
isn't
saying
convenient,
earlier,
believe me.
before setting out the selfless pathway, you have to basically get rid of your ego. Cheryl, how do you perceive demonic entities in your craft, especially? Do you have problems with dark things coming through?
One thing, okay, if you're doing meditations and things, and you want to be this all-powerful mage, don't invite things in.
Right.
Rule number 1.
Right.
And I got about 8 Christian ministers who are pals of mine who will say, don't invite them in.
Right.
Hey, you invite them in, they tell you all kinds of cool, we'll make you powerful, we'll make you
What if
popular.
somebody projects it on you, though? What if you don't see it coming? And, like somebody's doing a binding, let's say, or somebody's just intention, because intention can be really strong. What if they're projecting that over to somebody?
Okay, I see every day on Facebook, somebody saying, I need a protection spell.
Right.
Put yourself in meditation, even 2 minutes a day.
Right.
Remember, thought into form. Wrap yourself, think Star Trek, wrap yourself in shields.
Almost like grounding is what you're describing.
I wrap myself in shields. Now, I don't put an attack aspect to it. So I know some people like to make it a bit like barbed wire with grenades on it, enter at your own risk type of thing.
I kill you. Yeah.
But no, wrap yourself in protective thought. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And it's worked well for me for years.
Right.
Okay. And you constantly, I don't say you don't do it once. This is the other thing I think I mentioned in the
one-shot deal. Yeah.
Be willing to work on some spells for days, many days, or many months, many weeks or months. In some cases, some things I worked on, it was a couple of minutes every day for years.
Right.
Remember I said magic is gentle as a baby's breath?
Yes.
And as far as demons are concerned, like Dolly just made the comment, tell it to leave. You're not welcome here.
Mm.
Okay. In fact, in one of the Tibetan rituals I learned, we would make we had these little torma things we'd make out of barley mixed with ghee and make these like little sculptures. It's Play-Doh kind of thing. Okay.
Right.
And you're making it up, but it's edible.
Right.
And they would make a couple of other ones. And we were getting ready to make a big offering with this symbolic thing that we could pass around little bits of, and everybody could eat a little piece of it. Mm-hmm. We would take one and we would throw it on the ground for the demons and say, there, we made an offering to you as well. Leave us. Mm-hmm. Okay. Mm-hmm. So that's another way of doing it. Establish shields. Do not invite anything in. And oh, by the way, there is this other thing, and I don't talk about it in the book. There's a really good book by Raven Caldera, and I can't remember the other guy's name. But in the past 15 years or so, there's been an increasing incident of gods and goddesses impressing themselves through people in the community. It's kind of like the flavor of the thing when you're doing the charge of the goddess and suddenly the goddess is in there, everybody's saying, who the hell's that?
Goddess. Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. Right.
I first noticed it with some little kids that were like 4 or 5 years old. Is Susie going to be the goddess again? You're seeing something I'm not seeing, you know, and
What
then
do
you
we,
start
yeah.
really looking
What do
at
we
it,
don't know that Susie knows?
your voice
Yeah.
change, you see the mannerisms change, you know.
Right.
Okay, there's been some of this. Now, excuse the expression, nice white people from the suburbs don't get it. And you see a movie, something like that, about somebody being possessed in, like, say, a voodoo circle of some sort.
Right.
Okay, a Caribbean tradition of some sort. Because it's out of context and they don't understand what is going on. That person is not going nuts and is not going wild. It is perfectly normal in that environment for what was manifested.
Right.
Now, in our environments, there are people in the pagan community who have been at it a long, long time, who are acting as vessels for certain deities. Certain well-known Hellenic deities, you know.
Right.
And if you go to one of the mysteries festivals once a year, at some point during the festival, after you've had certain initiations and things,
right,
you can actually go up there and sit down and talk to this person who you talked to, Susie, a couple of days ago, and you're sitting there talking to Athena, and you know that's not Susie anymore, you know.
So isn't that a form of possession?
Yes, it is. It's and the term used in the Caribbean Buddha, it's sort of a channeling.
Yeah.
The term is the official term for that is the person who's doing it is a horse. It's being ridden by the god or the goddess.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And it's usually only, don't say, oh God, I think that'd be fun. No, it's not. Okay.
Right.
It is not. And there's not a lot of people trained in the American pagan community to deal with it. It's been happening more and more in suburban circles with very experienced people. There's also another type of thing. It's not possession as much as what I'm going to say an emanation.
Okay.
Okay, give me an example. You do a really good charge of the goddess, particularly for an initiation ceremony. Okay.
Right. Right.
And the goddess comes and you have a sense of that presence with you while you're doing the stuff. Okay. Sometimes that sense of presence doesn't go away for a day or two. Okay, she sort of stays with you, but it's not like she's possessing you, but she's sort of like looking through your eyes kind of thing.
Yeah, you know? Sort of just enjoying the meat soup for a little while, as you say.
Sometimes, yes.
And having the human experience.
Yes.
For a little while.
As one priestess put it to me, we were talking about this, one priestess put it to me, that particular goddess that I know, she says, she's here to see things from my perspective and will hang around for a certain amount of time. Right. And I've got certain restrictions on what I can do in my magic while she's here.
And as Stephen says, watching the world, what the world has become, that's got to be a shocker, isn't it?
Well, this thing has been happening for the last 15 years. So why? We're at a tipping point with our ecology. And if we get to the point where we can't sustain advanced life on this planet, then who's going to be here to honor and love the gods? Plus, the gods are saying, why are you wrecking the planet, you idiots? You know,
who let the kids out in the schoolyard too long?
Yeah. And it's like the ET, very spiritual bunch. You know, in 1947, we set off 3 nukes down here in 1945.
Messed up the whole
saying,
dimension of ripple effect.
Oh my God, the idiots have a box of matches.
It's true. Who gave the kids the matches? Exactly.
Yeah, so that's kind of what it was. I saw something there a minute ago. Somebody was saying about love spells.
Popular spells. Which ones are requested more than others? Good question, Bubbly.
Okay, love spells.
Right.
Okay. That's just another form of binding, if you ask me.
Right. That would make sense.
You're trying to impress your will on somebody about something that didn't naturally. Now, influencing spells in that kind of a regard, you know, make that person see me. You know?
Right. You know? Seeing me and binding them to me are 2 different things, is what you're saying.
Exactly. I know a gal. In fact, I know I told a story of one of somebody used to work with me a long time ago in DC. She was a very talented lawyer.
Right.
And she said that, oh, I did this love spell, and I said, did you put me and this other priestess at Doris? Did you put any limits on it? Any kind of filters? And she said, no, I just figured I'd put it out there for all of them and I'd wade through them. And we sat there in a subway across. She was on the other platform going the other direction. And in 20 minutes, waiting for this, it was Sunday afternoon, so the trains only came every 20 or 30 minutes. And we saw like 12 different guys hit on her, and weeks later, she called me up and she says, oh my God, every geek in DC is finding me. Okay. But what she didn't do for herself, before she did that, she didn't do some introspective study upon herself. She didn't do inward study to find out what she is about.
Right.
Turned out she's a ladies' lady.
Right.
And she's happily married now and all that kind of stuff to another nice lawyer, But the thing was, she was just going along with the program where I'm a girl, I'm supposed to find a nice guy out there and that type of thing. No. Find out what you're about. Do introspection. Find out what you're about before you start seeking a lover. Okay. That's important. Right. And respect. I don't believe in love spells. I don't think they're fair. It's like I said, I think it's a form of binding. Right. Now, attraction spells, yeah, okay. You know what the most effective form of attraction is? I was a celibate nun for 7 years. Okay, I was a celibate nun Buddhist nun for 7 years. A shaved head, Dalai Lama robes, worked every day at corporate headquarters at Lockheed Martin, dressed like the Dalai Lama. Okay, pushed their diversity policy to the bleeding edge. Okay, right. And funny when you're in that celibate situation and people know you're celibate, suddenly everybody wants to try and get into your penis.
Exactly. Challenge accepted.
Right. Honest to God.
There it is.
I met Linda at we were both members of a association of about 70 or 80 people who were into live action role play. Right. And I mean, live action role play, like 2 or 3 year campaign kind of things, And the ones we were in were set in like the 30s or 40s, kind of, gangbusters, G-Men, Indiana Jones, and Buck Rogers all kind of rolled into one, And she was in the house. She was in the cast. She was in the house cast, and I was one of the player characters. Mm-hmm. And it was the New Year's Eve party after 9/11, coming out of 2001. And this was the guy was the game master. He had this big 3-story house, So we were up at his house. We were all out of character. It was a chance to be Cheryl and, that type of thing. And I was reading tarot cards up in the study in this guy's house for something to do. And a friend of mine came in, introduced this woman to me and said, hey, she's Buddhist, you're Buddhist. Why don't you talk Buddhist? I'm going,
some Buddhist stuff, right?
Yeah, talk Buddhist stuff. And she looked into my eyes, I looked into her eyes, and there was this like instant chemistry. I'm going, oh, this is not good. Get the 10-foot pole out, And she's walking down the hall. I said, well, come back later. I'll do a tarot card reading for you. And she's walking down the hall. And I heard later, she asked the guy whose arm she was on, who's also another player, says, is Tashi a boy or a girl? Yes.
Leave that right there too.
So okay, fine. So what ultimately happened was when I did her tarot card reading, I had to break out the little bloody book that comes in the box. Oh. I'm an experienced reader and I couldn't read it.
Wow.
And I wrote them all down in my notebook. I wouldn't show it to her until about 6 months, 8 months later. I was out of robes. I'd been released from my vows for other reasons.
Right.
That's when I showed her what the card reading was. I was all over her cards.
Oh.
And it rattled me because, again, I was in this monastic situation. I got promoted to being a yogi. So, but so that's love spells. I don't believe in those things. Play hard to get, and people will fall out. It's like early witches who want to be a priestess, I don't have any students, decide to get into something for yourself, and believe me, the goddess will throw students out of the woodwork at you. Decide to go start taking a class in karate, do a pottery class or something like that, something on your own time for you, and suddenly you'll have students coming out of your ears.
Right.
Be careful what you ask for.
That's the key. All right, students. We're all students tonight, but
we're all students. No matter, I'm still a student. We're all students.
Yes.
Once you start getting to a point where you think you're no longer a student, look out.
That's right. That's right. Oh, I do. I agree. We're all students. Absolutely. Well, we're at the top of the hour. Oh, bloody ready. So this is the part where you tell everybody how to find you, where to find your book.
All right.
Promote.
If you absolutely you want to write me, okay, buy the book. There's an email address in the back of the book. Okay.
There you go. No email address.
It's the only one that functions for this thing. Okay.
Right.
The book is called Magickal Musings of a Rogue Witch. If you go onto Amazon to books and search Cheryl Costa, Witch, Cheryl with a C, Costa with a C, Witch, you'll get this book. It's cheap. Okay.
Right. It is.
It's a very small book, only 144 pages.
Nice, easy read.
I reckon, easy read, yes, but I've had a lot of email.
Right.
Read one chapter, think about it a day or two, then read another chapter, because I pack a lot into a chapter.
Right.
I make you really, really think. Okay.
Right.
And this wasn't intended. It was not intended to be a beginner's book, but I've had all these people who wrote blurbs on the back that everybody should read this book.
Right.
So that's where you find it. And if you get through the book, there is an email address in there if you have a question. I'm not taking on students. I am retired.
Right.
But if you like a little bit of mentoring or want a question answered, and don't send me an email with, a wall of text. I'm dyslexic. I can't read it.
There we go.
Ask a simple, straight question.
Sweet and simple.
Straight, simple and sweet. I'll answer another one.
Right.
But don't tell me your life story. Just ask
easier into
it.
Easier into it. Be gentle, like a baby's breath.
Yes. Now there's also there's a group, there's a bunch of guys in England that I work for, and I have a show called Mystical Mentors on the Casualties of Mars radio show service. Okay. And we're based out of London. And a couple of months ago, before the show debuted, I had friends of mine come back from London and say, Cheryl, how come you're on posters on every subway station and bus station? I'm going, oh my God, my face is plastered all over London.
Yeah, right.
But I talk mysticism, and you get a straight talk like I'm talking here. I'll pick a subject matter and I'll beat it to death for somewhere between 20 and 40 minutes. Typically, I'm trying to keep them to about 20 minutes, but that's what I'm doing. And the program's called Mystical Mentors. It's on Casualties of Mars. If you Google it, we're on everything. They've got us on iHeart. We're on Google. We're on YouTube. We're on everything. So
we just have to bring you back because you're just such a delight. And Amelia, right? I mean, Amelia missed this one, so
she's got her voice back. Have me back.
That's what she said. I couldn't be on. Always a great show when you're on. You're amazing. We love you. And Stephen says, thank you for answering all of my questions. Trish, who is also a witch, you are very inspiring. Thank you. And there we go.
I'm going to send you a note back in the email you sent me a link to. I'm going to send you a link to 2 newspaper articles from about 22 years ago.
Them.
Now, they will refer to Cheryl Costa, and they will refer to me also as Lady Cassandra, an Alexsanderian High Priestess, okay? I was called Cassandra in those days in the craft community, and back at that time, about the only people who called me Cheryl was the IRS and my boss.
All right.
Everyone else in my life called me Cassandra.
Okay. Yep.
And in 1994, I was invited to a retreat on a mesa out in New Mexico. Ooh. Shamanic thing.
Very nice.
Native American guys leading it and everything. And got my spiritual butt handed to me on a platter.
Nice.
And I came back, and the first person I called from the airport to just check in, I said, hi, this is Cheryl. And right off the bat, they knew there was something wrong.
Oh.
I got back to DC. Had my doctor look me over. He thought I'd had a couple micro strokes.
Oh,
And I went to my therapist at the time. I had one that was working me through depression, so to speak, and from being treated bad at work.
right.
And she looked at me and says, before I met you, I was a non-practicing Jew. She said, I'm a practicing Jew again because you are the most spiritually grounded person I've ever met in my life. And you know what I think happened to you on that Mesa top? She says, I think the sky opened up and God talked to you and it blew all your fuses.
Well, it's possible. It does work in mysterious ways after all.
Never
So,
been the same since. But the bottom line is, folks, when you work in magic, that kind of stuff can happen. Don't ask for it to happen, but it can
right,
happen.
right.
I've had a lot of my priestesses that I trained have come to me 6, 7, 8, 10 years later and say, this just happened to me. I said, yeah, that happened to me in 1988, or that happened to me in 1994 or something like this.
Right.
They're experiencing a similar journey. So subtly different, but
Right.
a similar journey. So
Right.
there is a journey to this thing. You're in for the long haul. If you want to really be a witch, you're in for the long haul.
Mhm.
Think about this. This is something you want to do, you need to do, and you're called to do. If you're just doing it because everybody else is doing it in the neighborhood, find another hobby.
Yeah, there we go. There we go. No,
And
I love
Dolly, yes, I know what you mean. Live long and prosper.
it. Oh, she's contactee and no sure in hell is. So, but thank you. Thank you.
Michelle,
It's
anytime. You and Amelia, anytime you want me.
okay. Well, we're booking into like September. So I'll let you
That'll
know
probably
some
be a good
dates.
time. I'll be through all the stuff I got to do over the summer. I'm speaking at a lot of UFO conferences this year. Since
Okay.
COVID kind of throttled down, the conferences are fired up. We just got back from Arkansas,
Mhm.
and we're going to be doing Pine Bush in the first weekend in June. And
Right.
in September, we're doing something in Michigan. So we're doing a bunch of things. In fact, I was
Mhm.
talking to people at Roswell. Were talking to me today.
It sounds so exciting.
Things,
We're gonna
things are
bounce
rock.
some ideas around. I got some ideas, and for to
We
work
can
the show
talk this
around.
witch topic again in September if you like, and talk about it from this idea of not so much from working active magic, but connecting to all that is. Just focus on that one topic, because I tell people, you want to do this, start meditating 2 minutes a day. Now,
Right.
people tell me, oh, I can't do it. I tried it for a week and it's so
Right.
hard. That's
Right.
why it's hard. Everybody be doing it if it wasn't hard. But once
Right.
you get past that 2 or 3 minute threshold and you stop dealing with all this stuff chattering around in your subconscious,
Right.
then it starts getting easier, and you sit down to do your kitchen timer 2 minutes, and next thing you know, you're doing it for 5.
Right.
Next thing you know, you're doing it
It
for
just
6.
keeps going. Yes.
It
I
starts
love it.
getting easier because you've dealt with all that stuff that comes up in
Right.
your face. My daughter said that, hey, all this crap comes up in my face. Just let it blow
Just
by
roll with it. Just roll
like a
with it. It's just
ghost.
gonna
Just,
react.
yeah, it's no big
Right. It's all good. No, I love it. And I will email you. Mwah. Thank you.
deal.
Thank
Anytime,
you.
anywhere. Bye bye
Thank you,
now.
darling. Hi. Bye-bye now. Oh, I just love her. She's just such a sweetie. So yeah, here we are, guys. We are at the end of another fantastic segment of the Outer Realm. Thank you for all who tuned in. Thanks to everybody in chat. I really appreciate you guys being so interactive. Huge thank you to Cheryl. Big thank you to Folgers Coffee. Another big thank you to Dr. Snick, Justin Snicker. Tomorrow night, please tune in as we welcome Lisa Savoy to the show for the very first time. And Lisa is going to be discussing her experience with different types of extraterrestrial beings. So she is an experiencer and a contactee, and she has been in touch and dealt with reptilians, and she has dealt with grays, and it's just amazing. So I think you guys are really going to dig it, and sounds great. I did meditation focusing on White Wall as a teen. Excellent. Excellent. Well, tune back in. We'll have her back on. So, everybody, thank you. We'll see you tomorrow night. Y'all behave. For real.